I never thought a housewarming would end with my son's mouth hanging open and my daughter-in-law lunging at my phone like it was a live grenade. But that's exactly what happened. "You bought a house with my money," I said, stepping past a balloon arch and through the sliding glass door, "and your wife and her mama are going to live in it?" Aaron froze, solo cup midair, while Patrice blinked twice before whispering, "Oh hell," under her breath. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The room had already gone quiet, the way a room does when someone walks in who wasn't supposed to know the party was happening. It was Saturday, September 7th, and I had marched up the walkway of their two-bedroom bungalow off Beatty's Ford Road, like I had every legal right to be there, which, given that $72,000 of my inheritance funded the place, I did. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, opened the Chase app, and hit call on the last number I dialed, Bank of America Fraud Services. When Ms. Danielson picked up, I put her on speaker. "Hello, this is Denise Hartwell again. Can you confirm the transfer from my account on August 19th? "Yes, ma'am," she said, calm and exact. "Transfer number 880,219. A wire of $72,000 was sent from your Chase savings account to a joint account held by Aaron Hartwell and Patrice Evans." Patrice lunged. I stepped back. The call stayed live. And to clarify, was I listed as a donor or cosigner? "A cosigner, ma'am. Not a donor. We have that noted here. You did not authorize a gift." Silence thickened in that room like a storm cell. Even the baby started crying. Aaron's mouth opened like he had words, but all that came out was breath. He stared at me. No, through me, as if I had morphed into someone else entirely. His wife was quicker to act. She snatched for the phone again, this time shouting, "You're twisting this, Denise. This wasn't the plan." "The plan?" I echoed, calm as a bullet casing on the floor. "You mean the one you made without me?" Everyone stared. I tucked my phone back into my purse. The air smelled like lemon-scented floor polish and betrayal. Their housewarming cake, still untouched on the counter, read, "Home is where the heart is." I almost laughed. The next morning, I sat alone in my condo off University City Boulevard, sunlight catching on the rim of my coffee mug like nothing had happened. But everything had. My name is Denise Hartwell. I'm 64 years old. Widow. Retired librarian with Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. My pension hits on the 25th of every month, like clockwork. $2,350. I've lived in this condo since 2011. Paid it off in 2016. I keep the deed in a fireproof box beneath my bed, next to my brother Thomas's will, the one that left me $110,000 in inheritance after he passed in February. It was Thomas's money Aaron used. I sat at my little breakfast nook, sunlight slanting in across the Formica table I once used to grade 6th grade reading logs. There's a picture on the wall behind me. 1996, Aaron age 8, front teeth missing, beaming beside Thomas at the zoo. I stared at it until my eyes burned. He hadn't looked me in the eye yesterday. Not once. Not when I walked into that house. Not when the bank call played over speaker. Not even when I told him, in front of God and Patrice and whoever those friends were, that I knew the title had both his and Patrice's names on it, but not mine. I had been quiet too long. Supportive, they called it. They said I was generous. And I was. I never needed much, just books, quiet, and my porch plants. I baked pound cakes for my neighbors. I gave to the church, not for show, but because it was what I was raised to do. I helped Aaron and Patrice with rent, with groceries, with gas. But I never, not once, said they could have my brother's money. I said I'd help. That's different. This wasn't help. It was theft dressed up as entitlement. And Aaron, my boy, still wouldn't look at me. Not in that moment. Not after. Not even in the half-hearted voicemail he left at 3 a.m. that night, saying, "Ma, can we just talk?" I didn't answer. I was busy pulling out folders. Because if they thought I was going to disappear into a cloud of confusion and kindness, they didn't know me at all. By Monday morning, the peace I used to find in my routine felt counterfeit. Back in June, I would have started my day by watering the African violets on the porch. I'd read a few chapters of Mystery Over Hot Lemon Water, call my neighbor Miss Bird to check on her blood pressure, then start baking by noon, usually sweet potato pie or banana bread for someone's birthday down at Macedonia Baptist. Patrice used to call them, "your little old lady habits." She'd smirk, shake her head, and whisper to Aaron like I couldn't hear, "Denise needs to get out more." But I liked my life. It was steady. It was mine. From June through August, I sent Aaron $350 a month via Zelle, labeled groceries, gas, or sometimes just, "You good?" Because that's what I did. That's what mothers do when their child calls saying the pantry's bare. That's what I did when Patrice said she had a yeast infection and no money for medicine. That's what I did when their AC went out in July and the landlord wouldn't fix it. Each payment was logged in my spiral-bound ledger. Yellow pages, blue ink. I recorded every dollar that left my hand. My former students used to laugh at my insistence on paper trails. Now I thank God I kept one. The condo was quiet now. No baking, no porch reading. I sat at the kitchen table, ledger open. Phone buzzed silent. Outside, the world kept turning. Lawnmowers humming, buses groaning up the hill. Inside, I felt like someone had taken a bite out of my life and spit it back into my lap. Sunday at church, Reverend Shears had given me a long, quiet hug. He didn't ask questions. He just pressed a folded note into my hand. On it, "You are not crazy. You are not alone." Psalm chapter 27. That's when it hit me. I'd been quiet for them. Not for me. For years, I'd downplayed their jabs, Patrice's mocking tone, Aaron's evasions, their sudden gratitude when money flowed, and silence when it didn't. I remembered one moment, mid-July. I'd just brought over a casserole after Patrice's surgery. She had turned to me, half laughing, half scornful, and said, "We'll get you into a senior home one day, Ma. Something nice, heated floors and all." Then she had the nerve to wink. I laughed with them then, but the chill of that comment stayed. Now I knew why. That casserole cost $14 to make. I had the receipt still. 3 days after that bitter housewarming, I sat at my kitchen table, the same place I'd mailed out every check, every card, every casserole recipe, staring at the memory that started all this. March 3rd, 2024. A Thursday. Aaron had called just after dinner. I remember because Jeopardy was on and I was folding towels. "Ma," he said, voice thick, like he'd been crying. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. I sat down, heart already tightening. Patrice's job let her go, and the lease is up. We can't afford the security deposit and the first month. Not unless we get some help. I didn't speak right away. I'd already been covering small gaps. Groceries here, a dental copay there. But this was big. "How much are we talking?" I asked. He cleared his throat. 20. Just to get us settled. We found this place on Oaklawn. It's cute. Modest. I'll pay you back by the end of the year, I swear. 20,000? I asked, already doing the math. Yes. And I'll sign whatever you need, Ma. Patrice said she'll even write something formal. I'll pay monthly, I promise. I remember the ache in his voice. The way he said, "We just need help to get on our feet." That's what did it. Not the numbers. Not the urgency. That tone. That childlike need. I let it hook right into the mother part of my brain, the one that remembers him with skinned knees and spelling tests. So I went to Chase the next morning and had a cashier's check issued, $20,000. I didn't wire it. I wanted it traceable, physical. Mr. Gaston, the post office clerk on Tryon Street, helped me overnight it to the address Aaron gave me. He even printed the receipt twice, in case I needed a backup. I remember I came home and marked the calendar. Check sent, March 4th. I waited for them to tell me when they moved. For a photo. A thank you. A repayment schedule. None came. But I kept convincing myself they were settling in. That they were busy. That gratitude would come later. In some form I'd recognize. Instead, a month later, Patrice sent a text with 3 balloon emojis and a picture of a doormat that said, "Bless this mess." No mention of the money. No update on the move. Just, we're finally home, two hearts, party popper sparkles. Like I'd never been part of it. Like I hadn't signed away $20,000 of my brother's gift to help them get there. I saved that text, even printed it, because my memory's sharp. But paper don't lie. The day after that confrontation, I pulled the old calculator from my bottom drawer, the beige one from my library days, still creaky from overuse. I spread every printed bank statement across the dining table like evidence at a trial. I was done guessing. I needed the number. I started from January 2021. Every Zelle, every Cash App, every ATM withdrawal with Aaron scribbled in the memo. Grocery runs. Utility help. That time Patrice forgot her insurance premium. Little things that seemed harmless when isolated. But in black and white, on paper, it was theft by 1,000 favors. Every item got a yellow highlighter slash. Every receipt got stapled to a log page. I ran the numbers twice, then once more. $72,180. That was the total. 3 years of mothering grown people who never planned to pay me back. 3 years of cutting corners so they wouldn't feel broke. And they had the nerve to tell folks I was doing fine, to post selfies in front of that house like they'd earned it. Aaron sent me some receipts, texted me Walgreens photos of crumpled gas bills, supermarket hauls, but once Patrice got involved, the transparency ended. She ghosted the paper trail. No thank yous. No follow-ups. Just, we'll get it back to you, promise. I printed everything, even the broken promises. I organized it into a 3-ring binder I labeled with a Post-it, Truth. I had Chase print the original transfer logs. And I called Marcy, my account manager there, young, sharp, respectful. She pulled up my wire history on her screen and went quiet. This pattern's not good, she said finally. You started with small withdrawals, then ramped up. Exactly, I said. They took more each time I said yes. Marcy nodded. And they never gave you anything in writing? Not one thing except a text. That's still something, she said. We can log it. We flagged my account. Fraud alerts on all future transfers. I set up new credentials, new security questions, even a second verification line. Marcy walked me through every step, patient and precise. This account is now yours alone, she said as we finished, and we'll have a record of everything. If you ever need to escalate it, you've got receipts. Receipts. That word. It used to mean groceries, gas, little errands of love. Now it meant ammunition. Because Patrice may think I'm old, and Aaron may think I'll forgive like always. But I have a binder, I have a number. And I have 180 reasons to stop being quiet. I should have known something was wrong when I saw Gloria Newsom's Honda parked crooked in the driveway off Oaklawn Avenue. It was Sunday, August 25th. Hot, cicada loud. I'd driven over with a peach cobbler. Something told me to just see the place. I hadn't been invited, mind you. But I figured after everything I'd given, a pop-in wasn't too much to ask. Gloria's license plate was unmistakable. News 62. That woman always loved a monogram. I parked across the street and sat there for a minute. The lawn looked freshly edged. Porch plants were new. Someone had hung a wooden sign by the door that read, "Family is forever." That's when Patrice stepped outside. She was wearing a robe, hair tied up, face full of surprise, then annoyance. "Oh, Miss Denise, this is a surprise." I got out, cobbler in hand. "Just thought I'd stop by and see the place. Brought dessert." She looked over her shoulder. I could hear Gloria's voice inside, laughing. Patrice shut the door halfway behind her and stepped out. "My mom's just visiting for the weekend," she said quickly. "Aaron's at work." I nodded slow. Nice of her to come all this way. The corners of her mouth twitched. "Yeah, well, she likes helping us decorate." I handed her the cobbler. "Just a little something. I figured since my money bought the front door, I could at least see what color y'all painted it." She blinked. "Excuse me?" I didn't repeat myself. I turned, slow, walked back to my car. Before I got in, I looked back. She was already on her phone. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I called the HOA listed on a sign outside the neighborhood. Woodford Place Townhomes, managed by Concord Communities. Ms. Ellison answered. I'm just trying to verify who's listed as residents at 2224 Oaklawn Avenue, I said. I'm a relative, she typed for a moment. Patrice Evans and Gloria Newsom, she said. Both registered. Mail forwarding set up last week. Is there a problem? No, ma'am, I said. Not anymore. 2 hours later, I drove to the county clerk's office. The title listed Aaron Hartwell and Patrice Evans as co-owners. No mention of Gloria. And certainly no mention of me. They had moved her in, my son's wife's mama, into a house funded by my inheritance, into a life I'd been cut out of the moment the check cleared. That was the first real rupture. Not the money. The lie. Because you don't say someone's just visiting when their name's already on the HOA welcome newsletter. 3 days after seeing Gloria's name on that newsletter, I called Aaron from the back porch just after sunset. Crickets were out. The air smelled like cut grass and hot pavement. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, Ma. His voice sounded casual. Too casual. I need to ask you something, I said, watching the light fade across my neighbor's windows. I looked up the deed. Silence. I saw the title. You and Patrice are listed as co-owners. Another beat of silence. Then, Ma, why you always micromanaging? That landed like a slap. Excuse me? He sighed. That deep, performative kind of sigh he used to do as a teenager when he got caught. It's handled. The house is in our names, because we're the ones living there. You said you wanted to help. I said I'd co-sign. I didn't say donate. You're twisting things. No, I said, voice steel now. You are. And then, without warning, he hung up. Just like that. 5 minutes later, I got a voicemail from Patrice. Her voice was slow, syrupy, and laced with disdain. Hi, Denise. Just so we're clear. This is our house now. Period. Gloria's here temporarily. But you're not. You gave the money. You said you'd help. Well, consider it done. Click. I sat on that porch with the phone in my lap until the sun disappeared completely. They were shutting me out. Not just of their house, but of the truth. Rewriting the past like I hadn't been part of it. That night, I emailed Wallace and Haynes, a law firm downtown. Attorney Wallace had given a seminar at the community center last spring on estate planning for seniors. I remembered his card. Smart man. Direct. Kind. I wrote, subject, urgent, misuse of funds, by family member Mr. Wallace. I believe my adult son used $72,000 of my funds under false pretenses to purchase a property he now claims I have no stake in. I co-signed for a loan. I have receipts. I need guidance. Denise Hartwell. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I checked my email at 7:15 a.m. Wallace had replied, Ms. Hartwell, this is serious. Gather all documentation. We can meet this week. Bring the co-signer form, bank transfer records, and any messages indicating intent. Respectfully, Thomas Wallace, Esquire. I sat back and exhaled. For the first time since March, someone had taken me seriously. They thought I was old, tired, and sentimental. What I was, in fact, was prepared. I was washing dishes when I got the chase alert. 9:02 a.m. transfer of $22,000 completed to E&P Realty, LLC. I dropped the sponge in the sink. My hands went numb. September 2nd. Labor Day. While most folks were firing up grills, I was staring at a screen confirming that the last big piece of my savings had been gutted. I opened the app again. The entire Chase savings account, the one holding the remainder of Thomas's inheritance, was now at zero. The transfer ID was familiar, number 880,219, the same number tied to the earlier down payment wire. I sat down, breath caught in my chest like a hand was squeezing it. Aaron had linked the account months ago. He'd talked me through it one afternoon in March, saying it'd make repayment easier. I thought I was setting up visibility. He'd set up access. I called Chase immediately. I asked for Ms. Danielson on the fraud team. By the grace of God, she was working the holiday shift. "Denise," she said gently, "I'm looking at it now. Yes, $22,000 was transferred to an entity called E&P Realty, LLC. That's the same pipeline as the earlier $50,000. Total of $72,000 from your account over 6 months. I didn't authorize any business entity," I said. She paused. Then, "Did you know this company is registered under Patrice Evans's name?" My stomach flipped. "No," I whispered. "I'm going to flag this entire sequence," Ms. Danielson said. "We're escalating to fraud review. You'll need to come in tomorrow to start the reversal process. But I'll be honest, wire transfers are hard to unwind. I just need the trail," I said. "And you'll have it," she promised. She emailed me the full ledger, all 3 transactions, account link dates, IP addresses from which the transfers were initiated. The most recent one was processed from an IP address tied to a location on Oaklawn Avenue. The same house. The same Wi-Fi. I opened my document folder, renamed it Theft Dossier. I added the Chase PDF, updated the timeline, and highlighted transfer ID number 880,219. At 4:17 p.m., Aaron texted, "You okay?" "Patrice said you're making calls. What's going on?" No question about the money. No apology. Just smoke. I didn't reply. Instead, I slid my SIM card into a backup phone, downloaded all the bank screenshots, and locked them with a 6-digit code. They'd drained me. But they'd left fingerprints. 2 days later, Aaron called like nothing had happened. "Ma," he said, "can we talk over dinner? Just us?" I didn't answer right away. He filled the silence. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We all got stressed. It got out of hand. Carrabba's off North Tryon." He picked the place. I hadn't eaten there in years. I showed up 5 minutes early and sat in the car. Watched the parking lot. Watched him walk up alone, phone in hand, wearing that same look he used to wear when he brought home a bad report card. Half sorry, half hoping charm would save him. I followed him in. Hostess asked, "Two?" He smiled like everything was fine. "Yes, ma'am." We got seated in a corner booth. I didn't order anything but water. "Ma," he said, leaning forward, "I get that you're upset, but Patrice and we didn't mean to cross lines." "You didn't cross a line, Aaron. You leapt over it." He winced. "Look, I got something for you." He slid a white envelope across the table. Inside, $500 in cash, folded neatly, like a gesture. "For now," he said. "Just to show good faith." I stared at it, then stared at him. "You stole $72,000, Aaron. And now you want to hand me $500 like I'm a waitress you stiffed last Christmas?" His face tightened. "It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that." Then my phone buzzed. I shouldn't have checked it, but I did. It was a group text. Patrice had sent it to me. "Aaron and, oddly, Gloria. We're worried about Denise lately. Her memory's been off. Maybe she needs someone to help with her finances." I held up the screen. "You knew she sent this?" He shifted, eyes suddenly on the salt shaker. "She's just worried. Worried about my memory," I said flatly. I stood up. I left the envelope on the table. I didn't even touch the water. He called after me, but I didn't turn around. I got in my car, drove straight to Macedonia Baptist, and sat in the pews even though the lights were dimmed. I didn't pray at first. I just sat. Then, finally, I said aloud, "Lord, I'm not confused. I'm not weak. I'm not done. So help me do what needs doing." I walked out at 10:30 p.m. and called the number Reverend Shears had written on the back of his business card months ago. Attorney Amina Hobbs. By 11:15 p.m. that same night, I was pacing my living room, barefoot, binder open on the coffee table, as Macedonia Baptist Chapel lights dimmed behind me in the rearview mirror. Attorney Amina Hobbs answered on the third ring. This is Hobbs. Ms. Hobbs, my name is Denise Hartwell. I was given your number by Reverend Shears. My son used $72,000 of my inheritance without consent. I have documentation, bank records, screenshots, even audio confirmation from my bank. Her tone shifted instantly, professional, attentive. Are you in a safe place, Ms. Hartwell? I am, but my accounts weren't. She asked a few questions. Dates, amounts, the relationship to the accused. She didn't rush, didn't interrupt. When I mentioned Patrice's group text, implying I was mentally unfit, her voice dropped a register. They're laying the groundwork, she said. That message? That's not concern. That's strategy. I thought so too, I said. That's why I'm calling before they try to take more. She exhaled. Okay, let's get ahead of this. I emailed her the first packet that night. Scans of the transfer confirmations, the text chain where Aaron promised repayment, the notarized cosigner form marked temporary use. I even included the $500 envelope photo from Carrabba's. By midnight, she replied, Received. I've reviewed the materials. You have grounds for civil action, possibly criminal. Let's meet this week and file the proper notices. I exhaled and leaned back on the sofa. For the first time in weeks, the room didn't feel like it was closing in. Patrice, meanwhile, posted on Facebook at 12:14 a.m. Some people thrive on drama and control. Not everyone's a victim just because they're loud. I screenshotted it. Dated. Filed. This wasn't drama. This was documentation. This was the moment I stopped playing polite. I didn't respond online. Didn't call her back. I let her post sit there, smug and public, like a landmine she didn't know she'd set under her own feet. By morning, I had color-coded tabs on every document in the binder. One for transfers, one for promises, one for lies. At 7:32 a.m., Reverend Shears texted, Stand tall, Denise. Wolves don't win in the chapel. I texted back a single photo. The binder. Label House Theft Evans. The next morning, Friday, September 6th, I put on my navy skirt, the one with the pressed pleats, and walked into Chase Bank at exactly 11 a.m. Ms. Danielson met me in the lobby. She wore the same burgundy lipstick as before, but today, her eyes were steel. We're going to protect your accounts, she said, starting now. We walked into her office and closed the door. I handed her a folder with my printed authorizations and the notarized revocation letter I'd prepared with Addie. Hobbs. She pulled up the screen. They have linked access to your savings and checking. There's also a scheduled payment set to auto-draft on the 8th $2,100 marked for Oak Lawn Mortgage, E&P, Realty. Block it, I said. She clicked through 3 screens, then turned her monitor so I could watch the cancellation. There. Payment canceled. And I've revoked all user access except yours. No more linked logins. No third-party approvals. Not even view only. She handed me a new debit card, new online credentials, and a sheet of contact numbers for Chase's fraud prevention unit. You'll get a confirmation letter within 5 business days. But this right here, she tapped the screen. This is real time. You're safe now. I nodded, my chest loosening for the first time in weeks. When I stood to leave, Ms. Danielson hesitated. I don't usually say this, but what you're doing, it's brave. A lot of folks never come forward. I'm not just coming forward, I said. I'm coming forwards. With evidence. She smiled, handed me the finalized cancellation form. I folded it neatly and tucked it in the binder under the section labeled Reversals. Back home, the silence felt different. Empowered, not empty. At 1:37 p.m., Aaron texted, What did you just do? We can't pay the mortgage now? Patrice is freaking out. Then, You're overreacting. Let's just talk, Ma. Then, Please answer. I'm serious. I didn't answer. I screenshotted everything. I updated the binder. The texts went under a new section, Fallout. Later that night, I put a security code on my Wi-Fi, changed my phone PIN, and removed Aaron and Patrice from my trusted contacts list. I even called the HOA to notify them that I was initiating a formal inquiry into ownership and payments tied to 2224 Oak Lawn. "Who am I speaking to again?" the representative asked. "Denise Hartwell," I said calmly, "co-signer on the down payment, unauthorized contributor." But not for long. By Saturday morning, September 7th, my dining table looked like a war room. The binder now had 5 sections, each color-coded. Amina Hobbs had asked for everything: full bank records, text chains, notarized forms, even screenshots of Patrice's Facebook shade. So I printed it all on my Canon inkjet with fresh reams from Staples and laid it out like a mosaic of betrayal. There were emails from Aaron with subject lines like, "Just for now, Ma," and "Temporary loan promise." There were receipts of every Zelle, Cash App, and mailed check. There was the notarized loan cosigner form from April 10th, marked clearly, "Temporary financial assistance." And right beside it, the email Patrice had sent to the mortgage broker, calling the same transfer a gift from a generous parent. I flagged that one bright orange. At 3 p.m., I met with Addie Hobbs at her uptown office, 12th floor conference room, with a view of Ramare Bearden Park. She took one look at the binder and said, "This is excellent. This is airtight." Then she looked up, eyes sharper than her tone. "You realize you're not just pursuing civil recovery here," she said. "This is a pattern of calculated abuse. What they did, misrepresenting funds, forging intent, misusing a cosigner, that walks the line of criminal." "I'm not scared of that line," I said. "I've lived under it long enough." She smiled slightly, turned to the section marked timeline. "So the last $22,000 was taken September 2nd. The voicemail from Patrice came August 28th. And the Facebook post? September 5th. She whistled. "They were setting you up for a mental capacity challenge. You do realize that?" "I do now." She slid the binder closer and tapped her fingers across the tabs. "This is going to matter, Denise. Not just for you, but for the mediator, the court, the HOA. People like Patrice use plausible deniability as a weapon. But you just built a fortress of facts." I sat back in the chair and looked out the window. Charlotte's skyline shimmered in the late afternoon light. I used to feel so small in this city, so careful. Not anymore. My phone buzzed again. Another missed call from Gloria, followed by a text. "You're going to regret dragging family into court, Denise. This can still be handled privately." I took a screenshot, added it to the digital folder, and slid my phone back into my purse without responding. This wasn't private anymore. It was documented. It was dated. It was deliberate. Monday afternoon, September 9th, I walked into Hobbs & Associates with a binder under my arm and 2 allies beside me. On my right, Reverend Shears, crisp in his charcoal suit, Bible tucked under one arm. On my left, Mr. Klein, my longtime bank manager, freshly shaven and clutching a folder of Chase correspondence with neat banker's precision. Amina met us in the lobby herself. "You brought backup," she said, smiling. "Receipts and witnesses," I replied. "I've learned." We filed into the glass-walled conference room. Amina laid out the agenda. Timeline review, legal thresholds, options for suit. Then she passed out copies of the packet, each one bound, each section tabbed. "I want it clear this wasn't emotional." "It was financial," I said. Mr. Klein spoke first. "I've overseen Mrs. Hartwell's accounts for over a decade. Regular deposits, conservative spending. No red flags until the linked transfers to her son's accounts began in 2021. And when she tried to cancel access last week, her accounts had already been drained." He slid over the Chase reports. "Transfer ID number 880,219, flagged." Amina nodded. "We'll include that in the formal complaint." Reverend Shears leaned forward next. I've watched this woman tithe faithfully for 25 years. She's mentored girls in our youth group, funded scholarships quietly. And I watched her come into the sanctuary 2 weeks ago, shaking. Not because she was lost, but because she knew the storm had started. He looked right at me. And she didn't run. My throat caught for a moment, but I held it. Then Amina pulled out the final document. A copy of the HOA letter that had arrived that morning at my condo. Printed on letterhead, it read, "You are not listed as an owner or registered tenant at 2224 Oaklawn Avenue. Your continued appearances have caused concern among residents. Please cease all uninvited visits immediately." Signed by Patrice's mother, Gloria Newsom, apparently acting as HOA liaison now. "I didn't even enter the house," I said quietly. I stood on the sidewalk. "It's intimidation," Amina said, "and it's noted." We added it to the evidence folder under retaliatory behavior. 3 allies, 4 signatures, 47 pages of proof. I left that building taller than I'd walked in. By sundown, Patrice had posted a video tour of their cozy starter home on Instagram. I watched it once, volume low. She panned across the living room, pointed at a throw pillow. "This was a gift," she said, "from someone who believed in us." She didn't say my name. But I knew the weight behind that gift. I also knew I'd be getting it back. Tuesday morning, September 10th, at 9:42 a.m., I walked into Carolina Freight Brokers holding a sealed manila envelope. I had on my beige blazer, my church shoes, hair pinned up neat, no smile. The receptionist, young, headset cocked sideways, looked up as I approached. "I'm here to deliver something to Aaron Hartwell," I said. "He's expecting it." She blinked. You can leave it here. I need a timestamp." She hesitated, then buzzed a courier desk. 10 minutes later, a courier from B&J Legal Messengers walked in, silver badge, clipboard, prepped to witness the delivery. He handed me a carbon receipt. I signed it. He signed it. Then he walked the envelope back through the frosted glass doors, where my son sat, pretending he hadn't looted my life. Inside the envelope, a formal demand letter drafted by Amina Hobbs. A notarized itemized list of debts, totaling $72,180. A 10-day response deadline. A warning of public civil suit filing if ignored. I didn't wait around. I didn't linger. I walked straight back to my car and drove home with the radio off. By noon, my phone buzzed. "Aaron, you wouldn't dare." That was all he said. Not, "Let's talk." Not, "We can fix this." Just the disbelief of a man who finally realized his mother didn't live in the shadows of his needs anymore. I saved the message under a new binder tab, pushback. I emailed Amina, received his response, no denial, just threat. She replied, "Perfect. Shows consciousness of guilt. Keep everything. No contact unless it's written." At 4 p.m., Patrice posted another cryptic message. "Funny how people scream, 'theft,' after giving gifts they regret." That was the moment I stopped referring to her as my daughter-in-law in conversation. Now she was Patrice Evans, party to a financial deception, living rent-free in a house my dead brother helped buy. I typed up a new timeline entry, ending with September 10th, 2024, demand letter served. Clock starts. Then I called my locksmith. "I need to change the locks on my condo. All doors. Today, if possible." "Trouble?" he asked. "No," I said. "Boundaries." 2 days after the demand letter hit Aaron's desk, I got a knock at my door. A woman in a gray suit handed me a manila envelope. "Notice of petition," she said. I signed. She left without a word. Inside, filing number 2024, GU1177, Mecklenburg County Probate Court. Aaron and Patrice had filed for guardianship over me, claiming cognitive decline. My breath caught in my chest. They were trying to take my rights. My money hadn't been enough. They wanted the rest of me. I read every word. Patrice had written her affidavit in that sugary voice she used on church ladies. Ms. Hartwell has become increasingly forgetful, confused about finances, and aggressive in tone. We worry for her well-being and believe she needs oversight. Gloria submitted a supporting affidavit too, said I seemed lost the day I visited Oaklawn, called me erratic. Erin's statement was shorter. She insists money was stolen, despite no proof of such. We fear she is being manipulated. No proof? I had binders of proof. I had documents notarized, reviewed, and color-coded. I had a chase officer, a lawyer, and a pastor standing behind me. I called Amina, voice shaking. They're filing for control, I said. Full control. She didn't miss a beat. I'll prepare the motion to dismiss. We're going to bury this in facts. By noon, we'd drafted the response. Attached, 43 pages of evidence. Timeline. Audio transcript of the bank call. Printouts of Patrice's texts and the Facebook post. I added a copy of the notarized co-signer form, marked temporary use. Amina submitted the packet electronically and in person at the Mecklenburg Probate Court filing window by 2:35 p.m. She handed me a stamped confirmation and said, "This is what scared people do. They file wild, but guardianship cases need actual grounds. And you have receipts." I smiled. Small, tight, tired. That evening, Patrice's cousin posted on Facebook, "Y'all ever seen someone go from sweet to dangerous just because the money dried up? Sad." It got 14 likes. I saved a screenshot, time-stamped, added to the binder under defamation. By bedtime, my doorbell rang again. This time, Ms. Bird from 2 doors down. Just came to say, she said, "You've got neighbors who know better. Don't let them paint you like some poor old fool." I hugged her. The kind of hug that lets you stay upright when everything else is trying to bend you. They had tried to flip the narrative, but I'd already written the real one in ink. By Sunday afternoon, September 15th, I was seated in Room B of the Macedonia Baptist Fellowship Hall, a Bluetooth speaker in my purse, and 3 printed binders lined up in front of me like soldiers. The folding table gleamed under the overhead fluorescence. Metal chairs scraped. The church's linoleum floor was scuffed from decades of potlucks, prayer circles, and truth-telling. I chose that room for a reason. Public enough to be undeniable, familiar enough that they couldn't fake their way through it. Reverend Shears stood at the front with his reading glasses hanging low, clipboard in hand. "We are here at Sister Hartwell's request," he said solemnly, "to mediate a financial matter between family members, with 3 neutral witnesses present." Erin and Patrice arrived 5 minutes late, dressed like it was Easter Sunday. Patrice wore heels that clicked across the floor louder than her entrance warranted. Erin looked like he hadn't slept. Patrice barely acknowledged me. She smiled at the witnesses. Rev. Shears, Ms. Bird, and Deacon Ellis, and then crossed her legs like she was preparing for a stage play. "Let's not make this dramatic," she said. "Too late." I slid the first binder across the table. Label, House Theft Evans. "This," I said, "contains the full record of funds withdrawn from my accounts under false pretenses. $72,180.41. Patrice scoffed. "That's exaggerated. You gave that money." I reached into my purse, pulled out the speaker, and pressed play. Ms. Danielson's voice echoed across the linoleum. Transfer number 880,219. A wire of $72,000 was sent from your Chase savings account to a joint account held by Erin Hartwell and Patrice Evans. You were listed as a co-signer, not a donor. Gasps. Even Deacon Ellis leaned forward. Patrice stood abruptly. "This isn't a trial." "No," I said, standing too. "But it is truth. And this room has held bigger sins than yours. You think a few church folks can't handle some receipts?" Reverend Shears held up a hand. "We asked for clarity. Sister Hartwell has brought it." I slid copies of the bank logs, the notarized form, Patrice's texts, and the HOA newsletter across the table, one for each party. Erin's hand trembled as he reached for his. "You lied to me," I said quietly. "You used my love like a debit card." He didn't deny it. His face crumpled. Patrice looked around the room, realized no one was defending her, and muttered, "This is ridiculous." Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out. Aaron stayed seated, silent, cornered. Reverend Shears closed the folder, cleared his throat, and said aloud, "This constitutes willful financial abuse. There will be consequences." And with that, the room fell silent. Finally, beautifully, on my terms. At 2:20 p.m., the Bluetooth speaker still sitting on the folding table buzzed as I tapped it once more. Playback resumed. It said, the room hushed again as Ms. Danielson's voice repeated clearly, "As confirmed, the $72,000 wire was not authorized as a gift. The customer, Ms. Denise Hartwell, retained account control and did not give full consent for property ownership transfers. She remained a co-signer with no relinquishment of rights." I turned the volume down and said, steady as breath, "That's from September 6th. I have the full call transcript. I can email it to anyone who'd like it." No one moved. I opened the second binder and slid a manila folder toward Reverend Shears. "Inside, you'll find copies of the itemized ledger. Every dollar, every transfer, bank verified, time-stamped." He flipped the folder open, adjusted his glasses. Deacon Ellis leaned in too. His finger ran down the totals like a judge weighing a sentence. Aaron stared at his hands. Patrice's seat sat empty, abandoned like the truth she couldn't face. I turned next to Aaron. "This isn't just a misunderstanding. This was strategy. You knew what you were doing, and you did it anyway." His voice cracked when he finally spoke. "I didn't know it'd go this far." I shook my head. "You knew the moment you added her mama to the HOA file. You knew when you linked my account to your mortgage. You knew when you let her call me crazy." He started to cry then. No big scene, just quiet tears he wiped with the back of his hand like a child caught red-handed. Ms. Bird cleared her throat. "We've all watched Denise for years," she said, her voice clear. "No one here believes she's confused. She's prepared." Reverend Shears nodded slowly. "The truth has been presented, and as far as this church body is concerned, there has been abuse. Financial, emotional, and spiritual. There must be consequence." Aaron looked up, hollow. "What do you want from me, Ma?" I didn't flinch. "I want accountability." Then I looked to Reverend Shears. "I will be filing suit this week. But I wanted this moment first, so there would be no more denials, no more whispering." He nodded. "It's done." I closed the binder, slid it back into my purse. Aaron didn't follow me when I walked out. He didn't call after me. Patrice never returned to the room. No one needed to explain what happened that afternoon. The receipts had spoken. October 1st, 2024. When I returned from the grocery store, an envelope was taped to my condo door. Inside, a folded letter and a small set of keys labeled 2224 Oak Lawn. The letter was short. Title transfer updated with lien filed. "Patrice and I have vacated. You got what you wanted." Aaron, no apology, no explanation, just surrender. I sat at the kitchen table, keys in hand. Cold metal, but heavy with meaning. They weren't a gift. They weren't even restitution. They were proof that I had forced the truth into daylight and left them nowhere to hide. 2 hours later, the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office emailed confirmation, lien filed, vacate notice served. A photo of the front door bore the official notice. Lien holder entry authorized. No trespassing. I slid the keys into my binder on the final page, beneath a sticky note that read, "Justice, dated."